Hi kids, welcome back. Today we're doing solving rate problems. So I'll give you a second to copy them down. Just copy down that first bit and then I'll talk because I'm going to do the examples with you. Alright, so worded problems. Everyone generally has trouble with worded problems. So all I can say is you just have to practice, do as many as you can. So a little strategy. So read the question carefully. Read it several times. If you have to read the question 5 times to understand what's going on, do that. Make sure you understand what's happening before you start the problem. Write down the important bits of information from that. So get rid of a lot of the words and just turn it into a maths problem. Solve the problem using the skills you've got, whichever method that you're going to use, and also check your answer to make sure it's a sensible answer, and then answer the question in words. If it's asking you a certain thing, answer the question in words. So I've just got a few examples here that I'm going to go through with you. So, Sam can type 22 words per minute, typing on the keyboard. How many can he type in 5 minutes? So this is a pretty straightforward question. So I'm just going to write down here my rate. It's 22 words per minute. So that's in 1 minute, because it's 22 words per minute. So 22 words is equal to 1 minute. So we want to make this 5 minutes. So we want to change this here to 5 minutes, and then this would be our answer. So how do we change 1 to 5? Obviously we times it by 5, and just do the same to that side. So 22 times 5 is 110. So 110 words in 5 minutes. That was pretty simple. 22 words in 1 minute, so in 5 minutes you times it by 5. And you've answered the question. Good job. Let's do another one over here. Slightly different. Ella sells 60 shirts every 15 minutes, obviously in a shop somewhere. How long will it take her to sell 800 shirts? So this time, over here, this question asks we had to change the minutes, the second value. Here we're changing the number of shirts. So let me write it out for you. So our information, we've got 60 shirts. 60 shirts. If you want to write equals, that's fine, or in every 15 minutes. Okay. 60 shirts in 15 minutes. How long will it take her to sell 800? So we want this to be 800 shirts. But it's a bit harder to go from 60 to 800 unless there's a number you can multiply it by. So I might have to do this in a couple of steps. So why don't we get this back? If you wanted to, you can get it back to 1 shirt. Divide it by 60. And if you had a calculator, you go 15 divided by 60. And you'll get a quarter. But I'm just going to divide it by, you can do whatever you want here. I'm going to divide it by 6, because then this will give me 10 shirts. Can you see that, everyone? 60 divided by 6 is 10 shirts. Now 15 divided by 6, you do the same to both sides. 16 divided by 6 is 2.5. So on average, Ella sells 10 shirts every 2.5 minutes. I just use the calculator. I use my brain. You can use the calculator for that. So that now, how do we get from 10 shirts to 800 shirts? What do we need to multiply it by? So we multiply it by 80. That's right. Oops, multiply it by 80. So multiply that by 80 as well. So 80 lots of 2.5. 2 lots of 80 is 160. Half of 80 is 40. So the answer is 200. 200 minutes. So to answer the question, you write here, Ella takes 200 minutes to sell 800 shirts. Okay, hopefully that made sense. If you wanted to go back to one, like the unitary method, you could have divided that by 60 and divided that by 60. Then you get 0.25 and then you have 1 shirt. 1 shirt, so you'd have here 1 shirt is equal to 0.25 of a minute. And then to get to 800 shirts, you'd multiply it by 800, use your calculator, multiply that by 800, and you'd still get the answer of 200 minutes. So it doesn't matter how you get to the answer in the end, but yeah, as long as you show some steps and just do it logically. Alright, so there's another one over here that's a little bit harder. So this question, a lot of kids always struggle with, but I'm going to explain exactly how to do it. Alright, So, 3 hoses are used to fill a pool. So there's a big swimming pool, and we've got 3 separate hoses. Now the information we've got, the first hose would take 200 hours to fill the pool by itself. It says alone. So if we just use the first hose, it'll take 200 hours to fill that pool. The second hose, I didn't write it all out, but the second hose would take 120 hours by itself to fill that pool. And the third hose would take 50 hours. So the third hose is actually quicker, so it's actually a bigger hose. It's letting more water go into the pool more quickly. So the question is, how long will it take to fill the pool using all 3 hoses at the same time? So sometimes people say, oh, all 3 and you add these together. That's not right at all, because that one alone takes 50 hours. So just using common sense, if you had these other 2 hoses helping this one, it's going to be a lot less than 50 hours. So you're expecting an answer in between 0 and 50 using common sense. Alright, the way we do it. What you need to do from these 3 times, you need to find the lowest common denominator. So 200, 120 and 50. What number do all these 3 numbers divide into? And if you know your times tables and common sense a bit, you can see 600 hours. 600 hours. So that's the lowest common multiple of those 3 numbers. So 200 goes into 600. 120 goes into 600 and 50 goes into 600. So now we can write down the first hose. The first hose. Okay, if it takes 200 hours to fill one pool up, in 600 hours, how many pools would we fill up? It's 200 hours for one pool, so in 600 hours we would fill 3 pools up, just using that first hose. Hopefully that makes sense, everyone. I'll just say it again. It takes 200 hours by itself, just using the first hose, to fill up one pool. So if we have 600 hours, it's 3 times that, so we'd fill up 3 pools in that time. Okay, now the second hose, we do the same process. 120 hours it takes to fill up one pool. So in 600 hours, that's 5 times 120, it'd fill up 5 pools. Okay, and the last one, the third hose, it'd fill one up in 50 hours. So in 100 hours it'd fill up 2 pools, and so on. So in 600 hours, how many times does 50 go into 600? And it's 12. So that would fill up 12 pools in the 600 hours. Okay, so hopefully you're with me so far. Now, that's each one separately. That one separately would fill up in 600 hours, would fill 3 pools, 5 pools and 12 pools. Now if we combine all of these hoses together, in 600 hours, so imagine they're all running together. So for 600 hours, this one would fill 3 pools, this one would fill 5, this one would fill 12. So all together, if you add these together, they would fill 20 pools. So in 600 hours, all 3 of them together would fill up 20 pools. Now the question said, how long would it take all 3 of them to fill up one pool? So now we've got our information like our equation, we need to get this to one pool. So if you want to do it in steps, you can. Let's just say 10 pools. What do? We divide it by 2, so that would be 300 hours, and then we divide it by 10. So one pool, divide that by 10, is 30 hours. So to answer the question, if we used all 3 hoses, it would take 30 hours. And remember, that's a sensible answer, because this one alone would take 50 hours, but it's got help. It's got this one, the 2 slower hoses helping it. So altogether, it'll take 30 hours. So that's the process. The key here is you've got to find the lowest common multiple of the 3 bits of information you've got. And that's it. Or the other way to think of it is these are factors of 600. That's the process if you get a hard question like that. Have a go as many questions as you can. So I've got your work here, exercise 6F. Now I've said do 1 to 9. It's good practice for problem solving. Remember, the only way you get good at it is by practicing. But for the ones that can do that, have a go at some of the other questions. So have a go at some of the later questions in that exercise. Once you finish that, you know what to do. You go to your chapter review, do those questions as well, and last year's practice test, which will give you a little bit closer to the test. So well done everyone, we've finished the topic now. I'll see you soon. Bye.